Hello everyone, and welcome to the second Your Paranormal Podcast. Alright everyone, today we're going to be talking about investigations outside. We're going to be talking about, how kids for some reason know things they shouldn't. We're going to go into some of the different paranormal technology we have, such as Rem Pods, and maybe some different techniques to grow your paranormal adventure, such as passing the torch when doing some EVP sessions. We got a ton of content here, and the biggest news before we jump into these questions is when I was the president of the paranormal research group at the college I went to. It was the fall of my senior year, and I of course had control of the budget, and we went and bought a $10 Raggedy Ann doll from Target, and we used it throughout all of our investigations, moving forward. And then as soon as I graduated, maybe a year or so afterwards, they could not handle the doll. They thought that there was a lot going on in terms of it, creating some paranormal, something might be attached to the doll. So the leadership at that point, when I was no longer involved, they decided in the best interest of the group to give it to their tour guides who were psychics, who knew someone who owned a museum, to keep it there. And for the longest time, we just thought her name was, or the doll's name was Barb, and we just thought Barb was gone forever. And it's been 2-some years since we haven't even made contact. We just thought she was off somewhere, shipped somewhere, who knows. And I'm doing the podcast, the Our Paranormal Podcast. I'm the co-host of with my good buddy Sean, and we're talking about our haunted objects, and I was talking about Barb, and right in the comment section it said, "I have Barb, Brian, I have your doll." And we had Joe from Oddities come on, and I was almost in tears of how excited and how happy I was that, first off, the doll is still in good shape, and the fact that I get to meet the person who was taking care of the doll for the last 2 years. And Joe from Oddities was so kind enough to actually send us back the doll. Like I said during the podcast, it was almost a magical moment. He said something told him to just listen to something in the background. He was there for less than a minute. We were almost like halfway through our show. He gets on, and not even maybe 40 seconds later, I start talking about Barb, which he has in his museum. Just the whole serendipity of it. He said that, Barb deserves to come home to the doll's rightful owner. It's almost like completing the cycle, and it's just crazy. And I'm so blessed to have Joe in my life. I appreciate you, Joe, and we're just so excited. We're so excited to have Barb back. We're gonna, of course, do some good videos with her, and just bringing her along with all the investigations. It really means a lot to me. It's very, very important to me that we're getting Barb back. I just thought this doll was gone forever, and as soon as I'm pointing to the computer over there, as soon as I got word that Barb isn't destroyed or thrown away or something, that Barb's still out there, and that Joe was kind enough to get return her back to us. Magical. Yeah, can't stress how great that is to me personally. I mean, we got her at the end of 2017, so it's just been so long. It is just phenomenal. But there's my quick rant. Let's get into some questions for this podcast here, everyone. Do pre and post investigation blessings work, and how should they be implemented? When I first started investigating, and this is just right off the bat, our group had a pre and post investigation blessing, which is, in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, please keep us safe during this investigation. Hopefully, we make contact with the paranormal or some kind of spirit here, and hopefully we can help a spirit. If they need us to tell them anything, or or if they need us to tell someone something, we're able to help someone today. But overall, and most importantly, please keep us safe during this investigation. We ask you this, Lord, amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. That's the kind of prayers we do before and after, and of course thanking, God, or whatever you believe in, for a successful investigation, a safe investigation, and so that's typically the pre and post investigation. Do they work? I sure think so, but I think the caveat is I think they work if you believe in the message that you're speaking into existence. If you are not religious, it is not going to have the same effect as if you are very religious. And it's my belief, and please share yours in the comment section below. It's always been my belief that whatever you believe in, or if you don't believe in anything, maybe ask the universe to kind of create some serendipity here, and create some kind of anomaly, or maybe just protection in general, before, during, and after the investigation. I think that's important. So I think you can tune this prayer to whatever you believe in. So if you're not a person of faith or religion, just asking the universe or nature, or just for something, hey, whatever's out there, give me some protection, man, right? So just anything. I think regardless of what you believe in, say you don't have that belief, but the others are praying along in your head, you can say your own prayer, or you could even speak out your own prayer, and then of course, make sure you do it at the end as well. I think that's so important. You always hear those horror stories of people opening up Ouija boards and not closing them, and all the bad luck, and then you have to sage, you have to do this, you have to reach out. Luckily in our field, oh geez, I start saying that and a random watch goes off. It's nice to have good networking in the paranormal field, because if something happens, say at my house, I would have the resources and the capabilities to bring experts here and sage and cleanse and bless. But I know everyone in my group also has, that capabilities, which is why, previously in like the last week or two, we talked about paranormal networking, why it's so important to have a huge, or maybe not even huge, but quality paranormal network. And this is the reason why. So I think, pre and post investigations is so important, but also having a contingency plan in case something goes wrong. And how they should be implemented, I strongly suggest you use itineraries for your paranormal investigations. And when you put them in, when you're laying out your entire investigation, write it in the itinerary. We're doing the pre-investigation prayer. We're doing the post-investigation prayer. And the last thing I want to say about this is, if you forget, it is okay. Just make sure you say the prayer at home. And what I'd recommend is in the morning, say the prayer again. Making sure that nothing followed you home, and if something did, that God or whatever you believe in, kind of shuts it out of your home, because you're trying to have a good home for your family. So the next question: kids knowing things they shouldn't. Now, this is a great topic that I like to bring up, just for people who maybe aren't full believers in the paranormal. But what I like to say is, how about those crazy psychics who know things they shouldn't? Or how about like 5-year-old Timmy who's over there talking to the corner of his room, and you ask who he's talking to, and boy does he not say, "Oh, it's Uncle Bob with the red beard, and he's talking about how he misses Cheetos." But there's no photos, you never mentioned him, and no one's ever said that he liked Cheetos. But, I mean, this kid is just straight knowing all that stuff, and, that could be reality, where oh, geez, I do have Brother Bob, or whatever the heck. It's just weird coincidences. And for some reason, it's always based on the kids. So strange. And then people say, is it because, kids are more sensitive than adults? Is it something that you kind of switch off? I mean, who knows, right? So, that it is crazy. Please let us know in the comments if you have any of those experiences. Maybe you have a niece or a nephew or just some wild story like that. I don't, but what I do is I leverage that in the conversation of, if some people are at least interested in the paranormal, maybe not actively in the field, I'll kind of use that example to kind of build some connection, because they're like, yeah, I heard about that. Or yeah, I heard about psychics. That is some pretty crazy stuff. Maybe some are fake, but man, when they're real, they're real. It's crazy. So that's how I would leverage that in a conversation. Nature spirits. Now, say you're on a hike or you're doing an outside investigation. Is there a difference between the spirits that you have inside the home, inside a big location, say a giant prison, and actually outside? And are you dealing with something that maybe might not be human, maybe like an inhuman spirit, but not necessarily demonic? Maybe some kind of nature spirit, for example. Definitely let us know in the comments, because this is something that I'm not too well researched in. So, I went to the Allegheny Forest. I'd say three times now. And the latter 2 times, we actually did investigations there. Where the first time, I brought my video camera and a little IR flashlight, and we're out there, and it's a little bit further from our home base where we were camping at. We're just asking, is there anyone here with us, maybe like a lost soul of a hiker or even a nature spirit? And then we kind of built that EVP session off of that. We didn't really get any concrete evidence. And, most of the time in our hot topics here, we like to have some kind of expertise. But, in this scenario, we don't. But we have a little bit of experience. The other time, we did the same thing. We were out there and we did a little bit of investigating, and just a little bit. But then that night, we were hearing walking around, and dead set footsteps right outside of our tent. And we went out there, and there was no one there. And we pointed a flashlight at this tree, and like half the tree fell, and it was a wild experience. All 4 of us were freaking out. This is the point where, I've been in the field, 6 some years now, in the paranormal field, and I was not worried about any paranormal entity. I was not worried about, Papa Nature Spirit taking a stroll near my tent. I was worried that someone was out there trying to harm, the people in my group. And it was so dead footsteps. It was crazy. Now, like, the Allegheny Forest is known for maybe, not necessarily time travel, but people losing track of time, people staring at something and then looking down at their watch, and like an hour or so have passed. And we kind of thought maybe, there was, if under the assumption ghosts are real, and under the assumption that like time warps or time slips actually are real, that might be a scenario, because so many people have claimed it, and it might be the middle of the night for us, but it could be midday or something of people walking around, because that area is probably pretty trafficked. So that's a little interesting. I don't know how to feel about nature spirits. I have such a small sample size for investigating the outdoors, but let us know if you do. RemPods. What's going on with RemPods? RemPods cost between $100 and $200, maybe like $180, $160, depending on where you can find them. I think RemPods are kind of that medium ground, where like or it can even be a large purchase, to be honest, because like $200 for like a small paranormal group is kind of big. That's a big deal. I think it's one of the ones you should go for. It's going to sense electromagnetic frequencies, right? It's, for example, if you click it on and you go to like try and touch it, starts to beep like crazy. Slow beeps at first, but the closer you get, lots of beeps. That's so important because you can put it next to trigger objects. You can put it, say, in the hallway, and you could be just doing a regular investigation and it starts to go off like crazy. What's nice about this is, especially for new people, they love stimulus in the paranormal field. If your group, say you're a seasoned, here's my shoes. I've done 20 plus investigations. I start my own group, YourParanormal. We're doing regular stuff like EVP sessions. I get them a good base where, they're not using Rem Pods, they're not using crazy stuff. Once they have a few investigations under their belt, I introduce the Rem Pod. And so they already appreciate the old school techniques. Now, when they get that stimulus from the Rem Pods in the hallway, they're in the bedroom. Hey, is there anyone here with us? We've been hearing stuff on the hallway. Can you touch that red light if you're out there? And that Rem Pod starts going off like crazy. That is perfect evidence that you can show your friends, your family, and your paranormal community. It's an awesome personal experience that you got going on there. You're going to start to freak out. Whoever's in the room with you is going to start to go crazy nuts. They're always going to remember that experience. It's just wonderful. These tools, yes, we're trying to capture lots of good evidence for the paranormal. From a leader perspective, I want people to have a good time. I want it to be memorable. If I'm sitting there asking for loud knocks on the wall, if that happened, I would freak out. That's a great experience for you and your team. I think it's more likely that you have your REM pod go off than those huge loud knocks on the wall. And I think any scenario where you can get them excited and it'd be credible. We're not out here faking evidence. If you've got a really good, experience and they can go get excited and tell their friends and family and they love that investigation, that's what it's all about. We are at a private residence and we were in the basement and we had a REM pod in the basement, and we were saying, is there someone down here with us and everything? And of course the REM pod starts going off, and a few questions later, it's starting to go off like nuts. I had never seen it gone, so it was crazy. And like most of the time, if it's spazzing out, maybe it's broken. Gino says, okay, listen, like if you don't want us to come by you, we won't come by you. It stopped. Dead stopped. And then just didn't happen, didn't do anything else. Man, that is either a really, really weird coincidence, or that's some crazy activity saying, I'm here, I don't want to mess with you, don't mess with me kind of deal. Like, let's keep our space. That's crazy. That's crazy. People are going to remember that. People are going to remember that. My buddy John, then he got sick. He wasn't feeling too well because he was the one carrying the gravestone, and then he ended up puking that night, and then, that's a whole nother story. But REM pods can be so memorable, especially to new people that are very sensitive to the stimulus of, loud noises. Especially because they're like dopamine receptors are already broken because they're on their phones all the time. Okay, now you're taking away their phones. Most of the investigation is dead quiet. We're asking questions, we're sitting and waiting. Then you've got something that breaks up with the monotony. You're hearing these loud noises. It's sending energy. So maybe a spirit needs that energy, that noise out there, right? Just so it can harness some energy to, communicate with you better. REM pods are so important. Portals are the same way. Now, portals are the things, it's almost like a spirit box where it's shuffling through the radio, but you can try and filter out the different stuff, where you can filter it out so only the voices pop out. There's some sophisticated portals. There's one in my college group that we got. It was very, very complex. I don't even know if I was using it right. We have it in the basement somewhere. It is insane. But apparently it was speaking curse words and screaming, "I am God," at one of the private residences that they went to. Of course, I graduated at the time. Portals could be really cool, but here is my tip on portals. If you look up portals, make it easy to use. You don't need 7 different knobs like we do. And first off, if you know how to work it, that's great. I'm sure it works even better than if you have a simplified version. I think it's important to have all of your equipment be consumable and usable with all of your members. And I think it's important to have something that's more easy to use than 7 different knobs and everything. But I love the portal when it works and it's pulling out words. And we were at this one private residence. I finally tuned it right. It was great. And then after like 12 or so minutes, they started hearing a dog barking. Like, it was as if the dogs were hell. No, I'm just kidding. But like, dogs were trying to communicate, and the owners were thinking that there were dog spirits there. It is crazy coincidence. It's phenomenal. It's a little more pricey. If RemPods are on the medium to high end, this is higher than that. Some might cost $300, $400, $500, depending on where you get them. Jeff Fent is someone in the paranormal community in Ohio who makes custom portals. I like his because they're custom. You can say you grab some pieces of wood from your favorite location and he'll build a box or something sentimental to you. And it's special what he does. And if you could save a couple bucks getting it from a mainstream place, if that's the goal of your group. But if you have the extra money, try and get one that's customized to you, that's sentimental to you, and it's got a great story. That's my advice for portals. Spirit boxes like SB7s, they're under $100. You can get them anywhere. They just shuffle through the radio, and it's like Bumblebee on Transformers. The goal is to shuffle through the radios, and then like some of the words will pop out. And if it's coincidental, it's like, wow, is it just coincidental? Or, is there something going on? Here's my best advice for spirit boxes. Say you're investigating with 5 people in a bedroom. You're at a private residence. They've been having some weird stuff go on. There's some banging on the closet, for example. You're in there, you turn on the spirit box. Where do you and like, it's all based on questions. Where do you like to knock at night? If that thing pulls out the closet, there you go. My favorite example is, how many people are in the room with us right now? If you get 5 people, the spook level is going to be off the charts. Now, what's interesting is if you got 5 people, what if any number popped out? That's crazy. If it's less than 5, you're going to start to doubt it. If it's 5 on the dot, you got 5 people there. How many people in this room? 5. You're like, oh my gosh. But what's even creepier? 6. That's you 5 plus something else or someone else in the room with you. I mean, that's crazy stuff. Also, the spirit box is just like a REM pod, but even louder. It's going to break up the monotony. It's going to spread more energy throughout the house for the spirits to use, under the assumption that spirits are real. And it's, for your members, it's going to break up the monotony of just 8 hours of silence. They're going to love it. It's the cheaper option. I think everyone needs a spirit box before a REM pod, in my opinion, just based on price, based on the stimulus that it brings and the energy it could bring in a room. Lastly, here I got the ghost box. Now the ghost box is it just pulls random words out and then it says them. And the ghost box we had in our college group, it just, whatever it said, it like, if it was at 7, it would say it in such a distorted tone, like 7. But like, people in the room didn't know what it said. So people were saying, what did it say? What did it say? But like, some people heard it say 7, some people heard it say something else. But what you do is you have someone as the recorder writing down everything. They're the ones that have the ghost box. And as people are asking questions, the EVP tech is asking questions. Hey, we're friends of the homeowner. Hey, is there anyone here with us? Can you make a loud noise that's close to us? Maybe a big bang on the wall, touch one of our shoulders. And the person writing everything down has the ghost box. And if someone said, hey, how many people are in this room? And if the ghost box said 5, they'd write that down as a coincidence. That's insane. That's crazy. Now, some people say ghost box just spit out random words. That could be the case. It's definitely the less credible of all these different technology. But some people really love it. Some people are infatuated with this. And ours actually broke, so it didn't have the audio feature. It just had words popping up, which eliminated the people going, what did it say? What did it say? So much. And then the recorder would just write down the 7 different words that it said throughout the EVP session. And if they could try and connect the dots, maybe it could be some kind of, spirit communicating with you. I don't know how much Ghostbox run these days. We don't have one, but it's definitely something that you might want to look into. All right, here, people, on the podcast, we've got 4 more quick questions. Let's begin. And this is all about growing your group. What is passing the torch, and is there any ways to improve EVP sessions? So passing the torch is something that I created. Let's say that you've got a team of 5 people in a bedroom, and you're doing an EVP session. And the EVP tech starts off, hey everyone, we're friends of the owner, and we want to communicate with you, see if there's anyone here, if there's any message you want to tell us, good or bad, if there's any way we can help you. And then maybe the EVP tech asks 7 questions, okay? Ask the 7 questions. And then, the EVP tech's going to just, call maybe someone random or someone who might have a question. Hey, Jim, do you have any questions? And so Jim asks all of his questions and then goes, hey, Pam, do you have any questions? And you go around the room that way. It's called passing the torch. So the EVP tech is the one that operates the audio recorder for the EVP sessions. They'll start the questions, and then they'll pass it to someone so they can ask all the different questions. And at the end, when it gets back to the EVP tech, does anyone else have any other questions? That way, people aren't blurting out questions, people aren't interrupting people aren't speaking out. Because, sometimes your best investigator are the quiet ones that have the best questions that maybe are more reserved. You want to make sure that they have their own time. No one's going to, speak over them. No one's going to trample over their time, and they can ask their questions and communicate with the spirits effectively. It's called passing the torch. Everyone loves it in our group, and we think that you guys are going to love the technique as well. Dealing with individuals who don't align with your rules. So I run YourParanormal. Let's just say we have 3 rules. Number 1, no Ouija boards. Okay, no Ouija boards, nothing like that. No provoking, and no provoking. Be professional, and no phones. Some people love Ouija boards. Some people love the different kind of, mirrors, scrying mirrors, black mirrors, not the TV show, Ouija boards. They think it's harmless, it's all intent. That's great. Go do that on your own investigation. Go start your own group. For us, you can be in multiple groups. Just, there's rules in place. I invest the most hours, if not all the hours. I invest the most capital. I run the group. And, my goal is to keep people safe and have a great time. I've heard too many horror stories about Ouija boards, so we're not going to do them. We don't provoke because that makes some people uncomfortable, and it might put my team in an unsafe position because you might be provoking an inhuman spirit under the assumption ghosts are real, under the assumption demons are real. We're not trying to provoke. We're trying to be respectful here. And we got to be professional because we're going to be showing this evidence to our community, our paranormal community, our friends, our family. And, we're not trying to, be jerks around here or trying to, that's not us. That could be you. Just investigate by yourself or start your own group or join a different group. And third is no phones. I remember a time I was in concert choir in high school, and you could tell people were texting because, the inner workings of the lights and everything would go in the classroom. There's just some kind of interference that phones do. So when we use phones during investigations, it's do not disturb airplane mode, put the audio recorder app on, and use it as a static audio recorder. It saves your group money, and it gives that team member something special, a little piece of the investigation with them when they go. And also distractions. Every time you do rotations, like you investigate the basement, and then you come up to home base for 10 minutes, and then you go to investigate the attic. I want my team to talk to each other about what's going on. I don't want them to sit on TikTok. I don't need them distracted. I don't need any interference. I need their head in the game. I need them making sure that they're having a great time. And it just takes them out of the experience. So those are my three basic rules. There are some more, of course, but when people don't align with your rules, it's not a good fit. Look, there are so many paranormal groups out there. You could just do a solo group. You could do a duo group. You can create your own group. You could join a different group. Okay? And it's not like we can't investigate. Maybe instead of investigating on all of our investigations, you only investigate once a year. But you still need to abide by the rules. Okay? You have to follow the leader. You have to follow the group. And this is the flip side. If you don't agree with those rules, you shouldn't be, investing your time in that group. Or if you think someone's a jerk or you think the rules are unfair, don't. You don't have to be there. You can go do everything else. But for me, because this is very personal for me, I'm trying to keep my team safe. I want to make sure that my team feels comfortable. And I want them to have the best experience and that our evidence is credible, that our evidence is not contaminated. And those are the executive decisions I make. So, but yeah, if they don't align with your rules, you need to have a conversation with them and just sometimes it's best to just part ways. Smaller groups for investigations, for our group, because we're not like, hey, if you're in our group, you can't be in anyone else's group. That's fine. You can be a part of 2-3 groups. Most of the time, if we have a big investigation, say I'm trying to buy a $300 night, 10 people, so that's $30 a pop. And my group here in Youngstown, they don't. Only 5 people can afford the $30, and the other 5 are busy or whatever. I have people in Cleveland. I have lots of members of my Your Paranormal group. I'll reach out to them, see if they want to come. And most of the time, those ones are even more serious so we can fill the investigation and have a great time. But there are definitely times where I want a smaller investigation with just my hometown friends. Smaller investigations where I only take like 2 or 3 people with me and we have a small 2-person, 3-person, 4-person investigation. You don't need to invite everyone. You don't need to have, but you don't want drama and cliques in your group. But you are allowed to have a small team, and everyone needs to understand that. You can have small teams to run during, because maybe some people are louder than the others, or you think some people are more professional than others. So if you have a private residence that's very serious, that you need to be, conducted as professionals, maybe you only take the professional ones. That's okay. You shouldn't put this unnecessary stress or drama in your life as a leader of a group, or, maybe if you're involved in some kind of leadership of the group, you shouldn't take that so personally. So, and lastly, Brian, what's the difference between free investigations and renting out a big location? Here's the big one for me. If you have a free investigation, say a friend or a family that's got a private residence, they say, look, we trust you, we'll leave for the night, we'll go stay at our buddies, you have the keys, go see if there's any ghosts in my house. We've been hearing some weird stuff. If you have a minimum investigation fee of $15, you bring 10 people. That's $150 for your group. If some people don't make it, some people got to back out due to whatever reason, what do? You lose $15, you lose $30, but you don't have to pay that, okay? It's just, instead of your group pocketing $150 for batteries or for travel expenses, or other equipment, your group only pockets $130. With a big location, if you give it to them at cost, if it's $30 a pop and you give them to them at cost, you don't make any money. You actually lose money because you're using batteries, or if you're recharging your batteries, you're using your electricity. If you're getting food for everyone, you're just losing across the board. And you open yourself up to risk. What if someone pops out and the leader has to pay $30? Because maybe you can't find a replacement in time. Or if 2 or 3 people fall out, that's $60, $90, and that's a huge risk. Now, here are the trade-offs. Private residences could be even more creepy and more active than the big locations. But the big locations can be a better experience. You could be standing on top of a prison. You could be going through the giant cells full of history, all this crazy stuff. I think it's worth the risk, but don't run all of them. In fact, you can run enough free ones to put an account just to safeguard your group, just in case some people fall out. You have some emergency funds to fill that in. I mean, that all comes down to your treasurer or whoever does your personal finances for your paranormal group. But yeah, I think you need to do both. But I think you need to understand the financial and the just the sentimental gains from both. I mean, you can have a lot of fun, creepy, extremely haunted private residences. You can have giant, cool, awesome, and still creepy and haunted, but like all the history and stuff too, of these big prisons and all these big locations. But then again, you get to learn all about the family history. But then again, there might be hundreds of years of history. It's a trade-off. They're both fantastic. You need to experience them both. But I think it is interesting to consider both sides and the pros and cons. So we talked a lot today on this paranormal podcast. We discussed some hot topics. We discussed some little paranormal 101s, paranormal 201s here. I really hope you enjoyed the intro to the Scary Game Championship number 14 Soma.
Scary Game Saturday. Real ghost hunters play real scary games.
This time for the belt.
This is bigger than both of us!
We have to warn them!
Appreciate Joe from Para Oddities for bringing Barb back home. Like I said, I mean, that's so important to me, and so many of my hometown friends. When I told them, I said, hey, keep it on the DL. they all caps were freaking out. They're so pumped. They're so excited to have Barb back. Yeah, I mean, that's part of my history, part of my paranormal history. It just means so much to me. So got some great questions done. Everyone have a fantastic Friday, my friends. I mean, this is great. This is the Your Paranormal Podcast too. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Appreciate everyone. Have a great night.